Good morning. Thank you for starting your day with NJLAP. We're on day 3 of Wellbeing Week in the Law, where each day asks us to look at a different dimension of well-being. Today, we're going to look at intellectual and occupational well-being, which talks about our satisfaction and fulfillment and a healthy separation between personal and professional well-being. I'm Nicole. I'm NJLAP's Administrative Director. And NJLAP, for those of you who do not know, is a free and confidential service that helps attorneys, law students, and judges maintain and obtain personal and professional well-being. Today, I have some really exciting speakers. We have the Honorable John M. Doran and David Bruno. And both of these speakers, as moderators, we were each asked to select speakers, and both of these speakers came to mind immediately. I met Judge Doran at Judicial College, where he approached me, excited to offer ideas for colleagues with respect to time management and strategies to help with judicial overwhelm or things that could, in any way help his colleagues. I met David Bruno when he invited me to be on his show that he has with his partner, Nothing But the Truth, which is just one of the many things he does for attorney wellness. So I'm going to just briefly read their bios because they're very impressive, and then I'm going to turn it over to our panelists today. So Judge Doran was appointed to the Ocean County Superior Court in August of 2015. Since his appointment, he served in both the Family and Civil Division, gained extensive experience in broad-range legal matters. Prior to his judicial appointment, he had a distinguished career in public service. He served as Deputy Public Defender, where he held a position of managing attorney for the Atlantic City Shore Region office. He managed multiple offices, including Trenton, Mount Holly, New Brunswick, Elizabeth, and Asbury Park. Earlier in his career, he worked as an assistant prosecutor with the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office, further shaping his legal expertise. He earned his Juris Doctorate at Seton Hall University School in Newark. Judge Doran's broad legal backgrounds and commitment to public service continued to guide his work on the bench, where he serves as the only special civil part judge for the Ocean Vicinage. David Bruno is, amongst other things, an attorney wellness speaker. He's a passionate advocate for attorney wellness and personal growth with extensive experience in both legal practice and personal development. As a former Morris County Assistant Prosecutor and Certified Criminal Trial Attorney by the Superior Court since 2013, he intimately understands the challenges legal professionals face. He serves on the New Jersey Prevention Network Board and is an active member of the New Jersey State Bar Association's Lawyer Wellbeing Committee and Criminal Law Section. He writes the popular Law Life LinkedIn newsletter and has been recognized as LinkedIn top voice in self-development. As a TEDx speaker, he presented Reclaim Time, a trial lawyer's journey to inner counsel. He's delivered keynote addresses on attorney wellness for the New Jersey State Bar Association and is scheduled as a keynote speaker for Clio at the Solo and Small Firm Virtual Summit, which is coming up. David is trained in Dr. Brené Brown, the Daring Way methodology, co-hosts Nothing But the Truth, and created ICANN networking system for building professional connections. His unique combination of legal expertise and personal development knowledge makes him exceptionally qualified to address attorney wellness. His talks provide practical strategies for managing stress, building resilience, and fostering a positive mindset in demanding world of law. In addition, he's a former Morris County Assistant Prosecutor and recognized certified criminal trial attorney since 2013. So with that, I turn over the program.
Thank you so much. And I will start. We have done a couple preps on this seminar, and the judge and I have agreed that we'll do 15 minutes on and off for the total of an hour. And I will start off really identifying the need for this conversation. And thank you so much, Nicole, for the opportunity and the invitation to talk here. And when I listened to this bio, I listened to it with the understanding of there's two real sections of that bio. My beginning part of my career, starting off at the Morris County Prosecutor's Office as an assistant prosecutor, and then leaving the prosecutor's office in 2013 and starting the Bianchi Law Group with my law partner, Bob Bianchi, all the way to COVID. That is the part of my career that was experience, hard work, grit, and also overwhelm. and stress and anxiety. And literally, it did not come full circle for me until after COVID. And I'll talk a little bit about this because this is essentially my TED Talk. After COVID, when everything stopped, courthouses stopped. I was on trial. I was literally one of the last, I think I may have been the last jury trial in the state of New Jersey when the Judge Grant order was signed, shutting down the courtrooms. I was before Judge Candido Rodriguez in Union County with an open jury on a sex assault case. And when that order came out, I was like, hey, look, I think I'm done. I think I'm done. I ran to the order, and all of a sudden, no, ongoing trials continue. So it was like a ghost town in the Union County Superior Court going through the security and no one else there. It was such an eerie feeling, honestly. And then to come home and be quarantined in the home when service industry, and I think a lot of attorneys could relate to that particular situation when you're relying on new clients and leads, and in the criminal defense world, people going out and getting arrested and things. And when all that stopped, there's uncertainty in the career, in the industry, in the world, and certainly we felt that. That's when we started to learn about business and we started to learn how to grow a law firm. And it was about landing pages and CRMs and time management and accounting and budgeting and analytics and all these new sort of things for me. Never had to deal with that as an assistant prosecutor. And when we were a small law firm between the two of us up to COVID, it wasn't really that important. We were small, overhead was low, and then at the end of the month or whenever we would draw. Well, COVID changed things, and I started to learn about business. And what I shortly recognized as I was learning about these improvements in business was that there's this self-development and self-improvement world that I had been missing as well. And I started to listen to other speakers like Ed Milet, John Gordon, Brendan Burchard, my top three. And a lot of them brought awareness to what I had done, and that was hard work. I mean, when we talk about this adversarial process and being a lawyer, it's not for the faint of heart because I have really narrowed down and I try to reflect and I try to think about why attorney wellness? Why is this such a problem for our occupation? And the New Jersey State Bar Association in a 2023 task force that was initiated by then President Geraldine Lawrence set out to get some of these answers as to is there a problem, number one, and what could be done, number two. So there was a survey that went out in 2023, and it surveyed 1,643 attorneys. And the numbers were staggering, surprising to some, and definitely alarming. Nearly 60% of those attorneys surveyed reported experiencing burnout in the industry. For depression and anxiety, 48% of the respondents reported significant symptoms of anxiety, while 35% reported experiencing clinical levels of depression. And the most alarming statistic of them all is that of the responding attorneys, 11% reported experiencing suicidal ideations within 2 weeks of filling out the survey. And as I started to learn more about the things that I experienced in my overwhelm from the very, very hard, difficult period of time, and we all go through seasons in our lives. Some of them may be on trial before judge, where you got to get your evidence in a line, and it may be consecutive days. I mean, those are seasons that go in and out. And we have to be able to identify these patterns in these seasons, but my season was one of overwhelm in a sense that I set out to be the best lawyer I could be, staying late, trying cases, going across when I went to private practice all over the state of New Jersey, municipal courts, superior courts. I also started on national television in 2014. So I was going to the city, I was going to courthouses. I was doing everything in my power to service my clients, get good results, stay visible in the community. And then when I started to learn about improvement, growth, this whole sort of community that I had been missing up to that point, I realized that I had distractions in my life. My priorities were out of whack. And I had become the attorney that I always wanted to be. But some of the other parts of my life had been sacrificed. And I think that it's a common conversation for attorneys in a sense that we work hard to get where we are in our careers, appointments for judges. It could be an assistant prosecutor. You could be in private practice handling divorce matters, all the things. We work hard in education and in our careers to get where we are. Because, like I said, lawyers, this career is not for the faint of heart. We are in an adversarial process, which brings me to my three major factors of attorney overwhelm and unwellness. Number one, we are dealing with the problems of our clients, right? Nobody comes to my office, at least, and I think most of attorneys out there with good news. They're either charged with a crime, they're contemplating divorce, there may be a business conflict or a business problem that they need help with. But in the end, as lawyers, we are here to solve our clients' problems, which inevitably means they're coming to us with their problems, right? So that is critical in understanding and laying out boundaries because in this world of technology there's 24/7 connection. You know, the emails, the text messages, the phone calls. Boundaries are important, especially when we're navigating our clients' problems. Oh, and by the way, we have our own problems, right? So not only are we handling our clients' problems, and sometimes that gets emotional to handle maybe a custody dispute or a parenting time issue. And then also you have your own problems, either family problems, medical problems, whatever you're dealing with, financial problems, is on top of navigating the problems of our clients. So oftentimes we are dealing with multiple levels of problems. Number one. Number two, the adversarial process. We are against our adversaries. That's the beauty of our system. Most of our areas of practice have an adversarial process with a judge to determine fact and law and make and decide motions that are brought forth by the litigants. And then we, as attorneys, have to represent our clients' interests while also going against another attorney who's representing their clients' interests. And the only way that this system works is if there are two advocating on each side, working together, either negotiating or litigating. And that brings a world of stress as well. So now we are dealing with our clients' problems, we're dealing with our own problems, we're dealing with our adversary and the conflict in our adversarial process. And then you throw on the ultimate distractions. And this is a conversation that is not just for lawyers, it is universal, but we are in a gold rush of technology. There are so many ways to get distracted. It could be the old vices of addiction and gambling and the things that have always plagued our community. But now throw on top of that social media, scrolling Netflix and all the streaming sites and the news media and all these other places on media. Now I'm in the media. I'm a court TV legal analyst. I'm on 2 times a week. I'll be on tonight and I'll be on Friday. Those are my days. But the media is out there to sell advertising. And I think that's important to understand when we talk about these distractions because there are smarter people than us over in California that are programming these algorithms to keep us on the devices. Because if we stay on the devices, then the advertisers could run ads to us, and the advertisers pay the media companies, and that's how they make their money. Either TV media or Facebook, Instagram, you name it. That's why we are sucked in when, like, for example, somebody goes to check an email, ends up on Instagram, and then 45 minutes later, we're doing a deep dive into something that we're interested in on the platform. So I think that certainly when I reflect on my time through the Morris County Prosecutor's Office and private practice up to COVID, I put in the hard work. That, by the way, is required, right? That is required in our profession. You signed up, went to law school. We have an ultimate responsibility to navigate our clients' problems and be a source of credible advice. And we need to be on the top of our game. So the work that needs to go into our profession is required. But what's not required are the other things that we spend our time. And that's where it makes it a little difficult, is putting in the work that's required and then also sharing that time with distractions and things that are off our priorities. So in the second half of today's presentation, I will be talking about a system that I put into place personally, learning all those things from the influencers and the coaches that I have. I have put together a system. I've always been about system. And in recent days, I've reflected on some of the skills that I've learned from my mom. My mom, my mom and my dad neither went to college. They are blue collar at its best. And my mom was so organized growing up. I could always remember her folders and always staying on top of things with her lists and things. And that's one of the skills that I brought to the prosecutor's office in my preparation of my cases and for trial. And I have a system for trial, but I've also taken that skill set and put it into a system of priorities, which I call purposeful planning. And I will hit that on the next 15 minutes after we hear from the Honorable John Doran. Go ahead, Judge. All
Thank
you.
you, David. David, you're too generous. You forgot one additional stressor. All attorneys have to deal with the judges.
Yeah, that's a whole, Judge, I love that you brought that up because literally this is a conversation that we have regularly with my team.
Right.
And that is, I understand that there are statistics, AOC sort of things that have to happen and scheduling sometimes when you have to be somewhere or even when it's not really going to be a productive appearance where we say, hey, look, can we get an adjournment? Can we put this off? And then it's like, no, come down to Ocean or Atlantic. And I mean, I think that certainly that is a great topic of conversation. And I realize that judges have their own stressors, right? Because yes,
Right.
that's a part of it. And you guys are experiencing what you experience on the other side. But certainly as litigants, that is definitely a point of conversation and awareness. And that is showing up where we have to be all across the geo while also handling those other stressors. Thank you, Judge.
So you can add that the next time that you have to deal not only with your adversary, your client, the workload, but you can add the judges to it.
Well
All
said.
right. Well, thank you for that intro. Very informative. I want to go back to what Nicole was saying about when I first met her. So I'm retiring this August, and last August I started to think it's my transition out year. What do I want to do after I retire as a judge? And the way I looked at it was I started law school 48 years ago. I've been nonstop for 48 years. Okay, sure, there's been a lot of national travel, international travel, but basically nonstop. So I'm going to do what I never did. Never did between high school and college, between college and law school. I'm going to take a judicial gap year. I'm going to take a gap year and we'll see what happens. And I'm going to explore my other interests. Some of the interests that I explored while I was a judge and others that I kind of put on the back burner. So when I was at judicial college, as Nicole said, and by the way, that is the best week of the year, at least for me as a judge. I've heard other judges say that also, but it's the best week of the year because you continue to learn. I mean, you're learning every day on the job, but you're continuing to learn. It's intellectually stimulating, how refreshing it is. And of course, it leads up to Thanksgiving, seeing family and friends. So it's just a great week. But as I was walking down the hallway, I saw the lawyer's assistant's booth, and it just came across to me. Why don't I speak to them to see if there's an opportunity after I retire to assist judges? And I said to, after I introduced myself to Nicole, I said, look, I'm no expert on alcoholism, drug addiction, gambling, mental illness, or any of the other added stressors that people have with respect to their professional and personal life. But you're going to have experts speaking to judges about that. Is there an opportunity for me, as someone who's been through the process, to speak to a judge who may need assistance, just to supplement what the experts are saying? Because unless you've sat on the bench, unless you've sat in chambers, it's different. Okay. And listen to the experts with respect to what they're saying. But is there an opportunity for me to speak to the judge, just judge to judge, and offer some things, share the experiences, listen, and to offer some suggestions on how to prioritize and to bring some work-life balance? So she said yes. And I said, okay, let's keep in touch. And I was fully expecting nothing to happen until after August. And then she asked me if I'd be interested in being involved in the program. And I said yes. And like David said, we had a couple of meetings, and I became even more excited about it. So I want to talk to you about quality of life and bringing that balance. And to the lawyers listening, let me just say this. I understand, and I'm just going to interject with respect to Zoom and our technology. I use the Zoom technology to our advantage. I have tried cases on Zoom. I've tried complicated cases on Zoom. No jury trials on Zoom, but I've tried complicated cases on Zoom, both in the family division and in the civil division. I'm one of those pre-pandemic judges, pandemic judges, post-pandemic judges. When I signed on for this, there was no sign of a pandemic in 2015. And then all of a sudden it came upon us. But to the attorneys out there listening, I get it. And I have a very high percentage of appearances by Zoom. It's not unlimited. And granted, some people try to use it for their advantage, but I don't see the reason to bring somebody into the courtroom for a short conference or a short appearance or even a motion. My motions, by the way, on Fridays are by Zoom. But I'll tell you about Fridays in the second half of my segment. And let me go back to the background. So, what was the reason for the segue? I have been a sole practitioner. I started my own firm. I have been a partner in a law firm. My partner and I started that firm. So I know what David means about the business angle. I think there was a book, and it might have been put out by ICL or the Bar Association. This is going back, way back. I think it was called something like How to Start and Build a Law Practice. And it was very informative, very readable, by the way. And it's probably out of date by now. It's probably been updated. So I have been in private practice in both of those aspects. I didn't join a law firm. I didn't join a large law firm. I've been a county managing attorney. I've been a state managing attorney. So I get it. And that's why I try to afford the opportunity for attorneys to appear by Zoom. The only thing I ask from attorneys is be honest. If you have a personal matter, you can write that in the letter that your adversary gets a copy of. But you can also call chambers and say, you know, it's my daughter's Halloween party at school, and I'd really like to be there because I just finished a 3-week trial, and this would mean the world to her. Okay? Tell my secretary, tell my law clerk something like that, and you got it. All right? I can always cover it by saying, you know, the court's workload doesn't allow us to get to this matter today. You know, we'll make do. So that's my background before coming here. Now, coming to the judiciary, you have your workload. We've all heard about the workload. There's a fantastic number of cases, whatever division you're in. And the numbers are different in the divisions and the complexity. I'm in the special civil part. I'm the supervising judge here in Ocean County. Last year, even I was astounded to find out in the calendar year, I had over 22,000 cases assigned to me. That is small claims, lawsuits up to 5,000, district court, lawsuits up to 20,000, and landlord-tenant. So there's the workload. Then there's the information. Every day, I get between 100 and 200 emails. An easy day is 100 emails. A busy day is 200 emails. So you have your workload, you have your caseload, and then you have the information in the file, and the additional information that comes. And in the second part, I'll tell you how I deal with that. Some time management, some organizational things that I've used. My view is that you have to find your place. You have to find peace in your work so that you can be the best you can be for your family, for your friends, and for yourself. Okay? You have to also have outside interests, outside readings. I personally like to read outside. I'll just give you an example. I try not to read about the law, but of course I broke that rule. I decided before I ended as a judge, I wanted to read Oliver Wendell Holmes's book, The Common Law. It's a treatise. If you want to fall asleep at night, read it. Okay. And now I'm reading The Judicial Process by Benjamin Cardozo. These are 2 treatises. Okay. Other than that, I try to read outside, nonfiction, fiction, etc. And I'll give you just one example. when I was recovering from surgery, I was scrounging around to find as many books as I could. All right. And I found this book. I probably got it in high school and started it, but never finished it. And the book was called, I think the book's name was The Implosion Conspiracy. I know it was written by Louis Nizer, who was a great trial lawyer in New York City. And it turned out to be about the Rosenberg case. After I read the book, I kind of got interested in that whole subject. So I read a couple other books about the Rosenbergs. And then it turns out, less than 6 months later, the State Bar Association has a seminar with one of the Rosenberg sons. And I can't tell you how refreshing it was. Okay, the implosion conspiracy had to do with the trial, so it is legally related. Okay, I get it. But how refreshing it was to take a diversion into this other world, the world of the Rosenbergs, the world of the Manhattan Project, etc. And then, of course, a couple of years later, Oppenheimer came out, the movie, so I had to see that. But you have to have outside interests. I do it by reading. You can do it by clubs. You can do it by a lot of different ways. You have to find that work-life balance. Your work has to be meaningful. And I get it. Sometimes there's drudgery. Do you think judges really like hearing motions for summary judgment? Motions to vacate the default judgment? Okay. That is kind of repetitive, and we look forward to exciting motions, exciting trials, that sort of thing. But you have to find balance, and to me, it could work different for others. I find balance when I have meaningful work, when I'm continually learning. I'll explain that in the second portion too. And then it makes family life so much better. And you find your balance. And if I can help judges going forward after I retire, that's my purpose. And that's one of the things I want to do in my gap year. And maybe I'll pick it up and continue it past the gap year. But for practical solutions, David, I'll turn it back to you.
Well said, Your Honor. I've been taking notes, and a couple of the things that really are also important to me is what you said about the continuing to learn aspect. First of all, as lawyers, these appellate decisions, both published and unpublished, are coming out. We got to stay on top of them. In your area of practice, especially, you got to realize that there's a whole system that's working to clarify and change law that is important to our clients and the work that we do. So just from a fundamental standpoint, it is important to stay on top of law as lawyers. But with that being said, Your Honor, we are also in a gold rush of technology. Things are changing by the day. It is that quick, and there's been a lot of talk about artificial intelligence and the tools and the resources that are coming out and how that relates to lawyers, both the ethical use of AI versus the unethical use of AI. But with that being said, stay on top of the stuff because it's coming out and it's changing. Just a finger on the pulse at the very least. But one of the things I talked about in my first 15 minutes was this period of education that I went through. And that was, I'm a lawyer. I know how to try a case, certified by the New Jersey Supreme Court as a criminal trial attorney. And Judge, when I heard your bio, public defender and prosecutor, wow, what experience you have on both sides. Because I believe personally, and I'm a little bit biased here, that the best way to get the experience in trials as a prosecutor or public defender. Because in that system, we don't really have like the private clients. It's the state of New Jersey versus defendant. And that's where the system works. It works. It's a system that works in a sense that initially we're exchanging discovery in an effort to see if we can come to a disposition. But if not, that's where the trials come. So I was fortunate to learn how to try a case as an assistant prosecutor and then handling the defense side of things and also in the DV court. And Judge, you have experience in family. Maybe you could talk a little bit when you hit your time, but I mean, Domestic Violence Act. Now throw VASPA on top of that, which is the Victims Assistance Survivor Protection Act. And also the red flag cases is TURPO and FERPO. Now these are new, relatively new. Domestic Violence Act just recently changed, if you don't know. The coercive control has been added to the second prong of silver. VASPA has been changed from SASPA. And the red flag law is new, and it continues to take challenges on the United States Supreme Court decision of Bruin. So just, staying on top of things, not just law, but law especially in the areas that we practice. And also, don't let technology fly right by. Because we've learned a lot from COVID. And Judge, you talked about this, the video conferencing aspect that could save time, resources. It could be a unique way to communicate as well. And I think a lot of us we now appreciate the ability to use video conferencing. And that's just one example of the technology that's popping up that could be useful in our day-to-day, either practice or lives.
David, could I just mention one thing?
Absolutely.
Before I forget about the Zoom. I had mentioned that I had tried cases and use it for motions and use it wherever possible without overusing it. My philosophy is I have people from all over the world testify by Zoom. Regularly from Israel, from England, from Switzerland, from Indonesia, from India, from Pakistan, all over the world. So the courthouse is located in Toms River in Ocean County. So if I have an attorney that's in Cape May or Camden or Hackensack or Elizabeth, why drag them all the way down here? Or if they're out of state counsel, why drag them all the way down here unless it's essential? Okay.
Yeah.
So that I just wanted to interject that. You have people from all over the world. Why not from New Jersey?
Absolutely, Judge. I tried cases on Zoom too, especially the domestic violence restraining order cases. Because when courthouses were closed, obviously we couldn't do the jury trials and the criminal part, but there was an uptick in the TROs that were applied for because everybody was stuck in the house, right? And there was abuse, there was addiction issues, there was all kinds of things that brought a higher volume to the FV docket in the family part. And if they couldn't try those cases over Zoom in that period of time, it was going to come to a screeching halt. So it was required at the time. Now, is it easy? Not easy, right? You need technology. You need to understand how to share a screen and how to admit evidence through an email portal with the judiciary and things like that. But at least we had the experience in that short period of time where it was required to understand that this is a resource that could be used moving forward for different reasons. And I applaud you, Judge, and I think that all the points that you made are definitely right on. So let's get to the planning, right? So I call this is a recent sort of label because I write a law life article on LinkedIn. And law life is something that anybody that follows me across the platforms or hears me in my keynotes or listens to my seminars, hear me talk about this law life community. And I came up with a system that I call the rails. right? So it is a system that I want to stay on. It's a illustrative system, a repetitive sort of message that I write every morning, I write every night. I believe that journaling is important too. All right? So when I started to learn, my coaches really showed me two very important things that I needed to change in my life. And that is number one, the elimination of the distractions. So, I mean, I wrote an article on Law Life that fantasy football is a waste of time. And I'll just use that as an example because I've been there. I've been the guy that has had four fantasy football teams, right? And then there's this thing called DraftKings and FanDuel where people put money into the system and then they pick like a team that they follow on Sundays. I've been the guy. I've been the guy glued to my television from 1 o'clock when the first games end to the last game, usually ending at about 11 p.m. And then, by the way, there's a Monday night football game, a Thursday night football game. And if you're into Saturday college, there can be a full day of football to watch. And I had to eliminate that for one. All stuff that didn't need, it was taking away from priorities, other priorities in my life. So the elimination of distraction, and that's just one example. There are plenty others, stressors and things that consume our daily. Because if you think about a pie, and there's 24 hours in every single day, it's the same 24 hours that I have, the same that the judge has, same that Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, President Trump, you name it, we're all dealing with the same pie. And there's some required time that's sleep that we need to feel energy and feel good. But the rest of that pie is what we choose to use our time on. And for attorneys, you could be in a large firm with mandatory billable hours, or you could be servicing your clients in some other structure. But there's time that's required for the clients and the work. So, what do you use the rest of the time on? That's a question, right? Because I realized I had to change the distraction to what I now call my rails. That's number one. In addition to eliminating distraction, I also realized that I had to use habits and routines to structure my day. Now, what does that mean? That means every single morning, I have what I call my rock star morning. I get up and I do not go to the phone immediately. I do not go to the emails. I do not go to the text messages. Inevitably, there's probably something that demands a response, or it could be a fire or an emergency that is going to it's going to take my mind away from the important things. It's going to take me away from my morning rockstar routine. It's going to distract me. So before I even go to that, I go into Spotify and I have a playlist that is calming music. It could be instrumental, it could be classical. I use gospel music personally. But with that being said, starts the positive messaging in the mind. Then I go to my journal. And it's a journal I've been doing for about 2 years now, every single day, morning and night. And the journal, it starts off with repetitive messages that I need for myself. It starts off with every morning, avoid procrastination, distraction, patterns. It includes stay on the rails. And my rails are number one, faith. Number two, relationships or communities. Number three, body and mind. And number four, business, education, or work. Those four are in that order: faith, relationships, body, and business. And it's important to me to eliminate the distractions, focus on my rails, and I do it with these morning and evening routines. So writing down, stay on the rails. I write down the faith rail and the reminders that I have to write down, either a reminder message, an actual action that has to take place, whatever it is. It's just this morning of positive music, no phone, journal, and now I'm writing about what am I grateful for? What are the things that I'm look forwarding to today? What are the challenges that I have today? And what are the things that I need to do? And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. Who needs me most today? And now I'm really getting focused, bringing intention to the day to come with the reminders of avoiding procrastination, distractions, patterns, triggers, and also staying on the rails. On this point of challenges, they're going to come. Adversity is going to come. So, unfortunately, I've learned this too recently. Anybody that knows me knows I am fitness. I am on the bike. I have a Peloton bike. I have a tread. I work out every single day. It's part of that morning routine, right? Music, journaling, exercise. I come out. I have energy. I'm ready to rock. I'm ready to tackle the day, finish the day with journaling again. But I've realized just recently, just this weekend, I was at a batting cage with my son, second grade. He's in baseball. It's something that we're in right now. And I put my helmet on, I grab a bat, and kind of felt something in my back. Judge, you mentioned your surgery. I also had a surgery, a spinal fusion in 2012. And all of a sudden, my back starts hurting again. And yesterday, I went to the doctor because of this pain. And now I'm feeling like I can't do what I need to do from a fitness perspective. So when I'm talking about my 4 rails, it's okay if we're not firing on all cylinders on every one of the rails. But it's a system to bring awareness. So for my fitness rail, I'm back to square one. I'm back to the days, Judge, where I had to learn how to get out of bed. I'm back to the days where my fitness today is not going to be 30 minutes on the tread with a 5-minute core and 150 push-ups. It's going to be some basic stretches, and I'm going to take a walk later after lunch as exercise. So if you're not at the 30-minute run core push-up phase, start at the beginning. What can you do? It may just be a breath work, a meditation, and a stretch. But do something, because health is so important, because it could come and go. And I have recently been reminded that this weekend. I'm feeling better. Thank God. Because not only do I have this, I have a keynote for Clio tomorrow. I have 2 panels down at the State Bar Association next week. I'm being installed as a board of trustees for the ACDL of New Jersey on Thursday. This is a busy couple weeks. But the challenges, the adversity, they're coming. And that's why it's important to stay on top of them, bring awareness to them, take action. What are the things that are going to bother me today? What are the things I'm worried about? What are the things that I can do to take action, have agency, be responsible? And this system, right? This routine, journaling, bringing forth the messages to remind, for me, staying on my rails. It is a system that brings awareness, because the opposite of awareness is avoidance. And unfortunately, when people have problems, they avoid, and the uncertainty of what can flow starts to dwell. And that's where the anxiety comes. So, for any of us that are dealing with problems, think, what's the next thing I could do to take action? And then, final point, Your Honor, also have optimism. Action for the things we can control, optimism, faith for the things that we can't. Because oftentimes we're worried about the things we can't control, but we have to have faith. We have to have optimism while also tackling the things we can control with action. This is a great topic, Your Honor, and I look forward. I'll tell you, you and I, we got to do some more collaboration when you're retired, because this is a topic that our community needs to continue to hear and bring awareness to.
Thank you, David. And speaking of medical setbacks, 4 years ago, after surgery, I was in a wheelchair for 4 months. And your mind could really drift. What got me through it, in addition to my wife and family, was the fact that I love to read. I know I've mentioned that probably 10 times already. I love to read. And so I read a few books, and then I started to get a little sad because the book was finished. So then I went back to the way I used to read when I didn't have time, and I would read several books at the same time. So I would read like 4 books at the same time, and I'd read a couple of chapters in each book each day. And that way it dragged it out. The pleasure continued, and it helped me get through that period of time. You have to continually be intellectually stimulated. All right, as far as the practical aspects, I have 2 pieces I want to speak about. One is weekly time management. This is what works for me. And organizing the workflow of information. All right. Again, this is what works for me. If it doesn't work for anyone else, find your own weekly time management. But for me, everything starts with Saturday. All right. Saturday, I sleep in, have a nice breakfast. I come into the courthouse. No one's here. Every Friday, the next case on my reserved trial decision list is the case I tackle. I have no distractions. I lay out the evidence. I have my trial notes. I think in 10 years, if I've gone back into Court Smart to listen to what somebody said, maybe 2 or 3 times, and that's being generous, because I'm working the case during the trial. And I can usually knock out a trial decision in 1 to 2 hours. And I get one done each week. I couldn't do that during the work week. Not when you get 100 emails on an easy day. And then I'll put the decision on the record the following week. But that's how I start out each Saturday. And then I clean up the cases from the week before. I read this book again when I was recuperating. Fortunately, I had a lot of these old books. I think it was called The Super Lawyers. I don't know who wrote it, but Clark Clifford was a famous attorney in Washington, D.C. And he always worked on Saturday. And he called it his cleanup day, his cleanup and setup day. He would clean up from the week before and get set up for the following week. So the reason on Saturday that I clean up the cases from the week before is because I don't want 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks to go by when somebody could be working on a solution, somebody in court staff, somebody chamber staff, my law clerk. So I clean up the cases, because to me, it's an avalanche. There's the avalanche of the cases behind you, the avalanche of the cases coming in front of you. Speaking of avalanches, when I interview my law clerks, I always ask them, prospective law clerks, are you a good skier? And some of them look at me like, what are you talking about? Good skier. I said, well, there's two avalanches that you have to be able to ski through. Cases that already were heard, and the ones that are coming. And then I go to the next case we review. I don't spend a lot of time on that, but I flip through the calendars to see if there's any conflict cases or any cases where I know that it's going to be a troublesome litigant or that extra work needs to be done. Bang out a quick email to my law clerk, put this on the radar for Tuesday, put this on the radar for Thursday. And then after that, there's certain complex cases. I actively case manage complex cases every week, and I keep it short. And sometimes it only takes 5 minutes. I'll open eCourts, see if anything new has been filed. Do you know how pleasing it is to open to find that the case settled? There's a consent order waiting. There's a voluntary dismissal. But I set it up so that the attorneys know what's due a week from now, 2 weeks from now, as the situation changes. 5, 10, 15 minutes on a complex case each week. And I try to limit it to like 5 cases. Saves hours in the future when you don't have time to sit down for 2 hours to review the case. You keep it, and I even name the cases. I'll say this case is about the marina. This case is about a horse farm, whatever. So that, it adds fun to it. And then I have that intellectual stimulation. I always have a project going on. And it may be a project for a template, for a motion, whatever the topic might be. I recently made a decision on a ownership of a dog. You think custody cases in family court with children get emotional. Where do you see the cases with pets in the civil division? I also have an interest in ejectments, but whatever you have a topical interest, you have a topical project that you work on, and you spend a little time on that. And that makes your practice so much better, so much more efficient, and then you move forward. That's what my Saturday looks like. No one's here. And I limit it. I'm here from 10 to 4. I'm very structured about that. Because at 4 o'clock, I could stay another 4 hours. I could stay another 12 hours. The point is to leave. Now, just to back it up a little bit, my Friday nights are very relaxing. My Saturday nights are very relaxing. My Sundays are very relaxing. So if my wife and I want to have dinner with friends or whatever we might decide to do, she knows that Friday night, Saturday night, or Sunday are available. Sunday is my day off. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I like to get into chambers at 7 o'clock in the morning. I can get 2 hours of work done because, by the way, things are always being filed. Attorneys are filing things the night before. I don't want to have to adjourn the case. I want to be able to tell the attorneys and litigants, I've read everything. I'll say, give me another 15 minutes if I haven't, and then I'll step off and read it. But the backside to this is that at 5 o'clock, court ends at 4:30. There's always some cleanup to do. Sometimes there's an emergent matter. 5 o'clock, 4:30, between 4:30 and 5, I walk away. I walk out of chambers. I never bring work home. I never bring work home during the week. I never bring work home on the weekends. That's the balance that I've created for myself. Thursdays different. Thursdays, I'm in at 7 and I leave at 7. I could stay till 9, but I have motions every Friday. And it's my final motion review before Friday. Because you'll get the inevitable adjournment requests or the settlements. I want to make sure that I've been reading the motions all week, but you couldn't do it otherwise. But that's my final motion review. Then we come to Friday. In at 7, out at 4:30. And get ready for the following week. This is what works for me. Like I said, I don't bring work home. I always have an emergency briefcase. In the old days, we used to have snow days. Now we have, I always bring my calendars home because I can appear, if there's a snow day or an emergency, I can appear from in court from home. This is the balance that I've found. I see we're running short on time. I just want to run through how I organize the workflow of information. And you can have your own system. I use the judiciary's Outlook email system. I create a daily folder for myself, sort of like what David does with his journal. I will put everything for that day. I have a daily folder for May 7th, 2025. So that if a week before something's going to happen that day, I flip it right into the daily folder. I have a Saturday folder for all that low-hanging fruit. Judge, can you make a decision about this? Can you decide this? This happened, this happened. If it's something I don't have time to look at during the week, I just flip it to the Saturday folder. I organize certain cases, the complex cases, the ones that are a little bit less than complex, by case name. I flip it into that folder. So I can read a quick email, flip it into that folder, Smith versus Jones. And then when I go to review Smith versus Jones during the week or on Saturday, I have all the emails. I have major cases, complex cases. I have a folder for motions from the previous Friday. For example, I have motions from May 2nd. People that send me emails from court staff, I have their name -pending. So if, for example, Maria sends me an email, she might send me 10 emails a week. And if I'm going to meet with her, I can go through the emails to make sure we have everything covered. I have emails for appellate cases. I have emails, a folder for CLE credits, annual attorney registration, one for election day. I used to be an election day judge. Information technology. David said it changes every day. It's true. Judges have litigation holds if there's litigation with respect to our cases. I was a judge in mock trial. I have a mock trial folder. I have a folder for the State Bar Association and the Ocean County Bar Association, and also for trainings. When you get this many emails a day, and if I was an attorney, I might be getting emails from the court, from clients. You don't have time to go back and forth all day with that. Organize it, but organize it whatever way works for you. All right, Nicole, I think I went over a little bit. I think David and I could probably go for another hour, but
We could.
yeah.
I wish we had I wish we had another hour.
Nicole, can I just make a couple concluding remarks too, just based on what
Of
some
course,
of the judge said?
absolutely.
What you guys have just heard are two professionals that have installed systems into our day-to-day. And for you guys listening, your system may be different, but the fact of the matter is this world that we're in, this world of chaos and all these distractions and requirements, responsibilities require this focus that we're talking about, this system. And also something that I just wrote down is the word discipline. Discipline to follow the system is another important skill that has to be brought up in this conversation, because to stay aligned, like we have just discussed, takes discipline. And my light went out. If you guys, any of you guys saw, that's something. I have like pretty much a studio here at my house. I have a studio at the law office. I have multiple ways to record content and get it out, which is the technology that I'm talking about and some of the lessons. But these are the things. Keep on learning, because there's things changing every single day in the law and outside of the law. Install some systems to keep you on your rails, and then also have the discipline, the responsibility. One of my coaches, Ed Milet, talks about what is confidence. Confidence is the ability to keep the promises that we make to ourselves. So as we conclude talking about attorney wellness and the systems, the practical techniques moving forward to address this, those are some things that we need to be reminded and aware of.
And I think one of the things that was really interesting for me, before we kind of close out, was that you both put so much planning into your systems. They made so much sense, and you both were so considerate of others. And by managing your time, I think David said, "Who needs me the most?" And Judge, I think you looked at it like an avalanche. And by using your system and staying on top of your work, you were able to manage those tasks in a way that, maintained the balance. And it just, I took like a page and a half of notes, so some good books to read and just some great stuff. I want to thank you both for being excellent speakers, for bringing light to some various issues. I also want to thank the attendees today. I know that we're going to have a lot of attendees watching this virtually as well. And remind everyone that NJLAP is here to support you. Contact us at 1-800-246-5527. And hope everyone, has a great well-being week in the law.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Nicole.
Thank you both.
Yes. Thank you, David. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Everybody
Thank you,
have a great
Thank you,
day.
David.